Welcome to Portsmouth Insights. I'm your host, Rob Lauer. The Naval Medical Center of Portsmouth is the city's second largest employer, with over 7,000 workers. On today's show, we'll visit the center, as well as one of the city's older neighborhoods, one located right next door to the center, Swimming Point. That's coming up right now on this episode of Portsmouth Insights. Welcome to Portsmouth Insights. The Naval Medical Center of Portsmouth is the U.S. Navy's oldest continuously running hospital. In September 2011, Rear Admiral Elaine Wagner assumed command of the center. Recently, we had the great honor of sitting down with her in our office and learning more about this historic hospital. Rear Admiral Wagner, thank you for joining us today on Portsmouth Insights.
Certainly, it's great to be here.
So I was wondering if you could tell us a brief history of the Naval Medical Center.
Sure. Our tagline is the first and finest because we are the longest continually operating naval hospital in the world. Wow. The place was started in the late 1820s, completed in 1830. So Abraham Lincoln was 21 years old when this place was first opened its doors, which is hard to imagine.
It is.
But it has been continually operating as a hospital, as a naval hospital since then. And it's just been, obviously, Building 1, where we are today with the columns, was the first building built, and it had a variety of wings that went out the back. Since then, of course, we've updated it many, many, many times. The tower building, the largest 15-story building, was built and opened in 1959, and then the building that connects Building 1 and that tower building was opened in 1995, I think. Yeah. So a variety of updates over the years.
Well, I remember coming here back in the 60s when it was the child and the gates were open to anybody for Sunday drives on Sunday afternoons, and lots of lawns and trees. But coming in this morning for the first time in decades, I cannot believe how it has grown.
Sure, it's very different.
It really is.
Although we still have the beautiful grounds and
you
the
really do. Beautiful view of the water and everything.
Point. I know, it's a beautiful place
and you get
to
to live here.
I do. I'm so fortunate. This has just been a real thrill for me to live right here on the campus. It's been great.
That's great. So what role does the medical center play, would you say, in the overall economy of Portsmouth and in the region?
You know, I think it's an important economic help for Portsmouth. We have about 3,000 folks that work right here on a day-to-day basis. Many of them live in the surrounding communities and so contribute that way. We hire about 2,000 civilians. Wow. So again, many of them are from close in the Portsmouth area. We have about 1,700 contract positions that go for a variety of places, and plus we also have some reservists and volunteers that most of whom come from this area.
Okay, now given the name of the facility, I always assumed that basically you served people that were just currently in the Navy, but you serve more than that.
Right. Well, if you walked around a little bit today, you saw uniforms of all varieties. Right. So we do take care of any active duty military person. So Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, Coast Guard, including that. We also take care of their family members, and we also take care of retirees and their family members. Every now and then you'll see a German uniform walking around, because we'll take care of NATO folks as well if they're in the area. And then we're also a referral center for many of our Army, Navy, and Air Force smaller military treatment facilities. So the folks at Fort Eustis, Langley, just up the street, they will oftentimes send us complicated patients. We sometimes get patients from as far away as Camp Lejeune, Charleston, South Carolina, Beaufort, South Carolina. Wow. So we are a referral base for the Navy and for other military treatment facilities. We see a lot of different patients. Wow.
So with that broad reach, what types of, do you have any sorts of technologies, cutting edge programs or things that are going on right here that you're implementing here?
Oh, absolutely. As a medical center, we have to. We are proud to say that we stay on the cutting edge of medicine. One of the ways that we do that, first of all, we have a variety of teaching programs, and anytime you have a teaching program, obviously, you have got to teach the very latest technologies, the very latest protocols. And we do that. We have a lot of research activities as well. And interestingly, we partner with a lot of other medical facilities in the Norfolk area. EVMS, for example, is a great partner with us. Same with ODU. We partner with them quite a bit, particularly for research. But the other thing that we had, and I hope you had a chance to get up there, is our simulation center.
I did. It was fascinating.
Amazing, isn't it? So when you think about it, one of my responsibilities is making sure that every uniformed medical person that goes on deployment from here has to be ready to go out the door, highly skilled, ready to take care of very seriously wounded soldiers, airmen, sailors, Marines, the minute they hit the ground in Afghanistan or Iraq, wherever they're going. And one of the ways that we do that is we maintain their skills at times through simulation. And so we have a variety of simulated mannequins upstairs that allow our corpsmen, our nurses, our physicians to do things that they rarely do in the civilian sector, but will have to do probably when they arrive in a combat area.
Well, it was fascinating. I jokingly said when I went up there earlier that it reminded me of sort of the Hall of Presidents in Disney World, but instead of presidents, it was different injuries.
Exactly. That's exactly right. But how fascinating and how interesting and how very helpful to get those motor skills developed without actually having to see those things in the civilian sector, which oftentimes we don't. It's difficult to find the right mix of very complicated injuries, but we can simulate them upstairs.
And they were telling me that if those training, if they maybe they decide to attack the injury a certain way, so they can swipe a medication or something, and then the computer can be set up so that doesn't work.
Exactly.
So they're constantly on their toes.
It's amazing what they can do. The mannequins blink. They breathe.
The pupils dilate.
The pupils constrict and dilate. Absolutely. And of course the breathing changes. So they may breathe fast and shallow, which is usually not a good sign, or deeply and evenly, which is a better sign as you do things to that mannequin. It's incredible. It really and very exciting. And the other nice thing about the simulation is our folks can work in teams. So physician, nurse, corpsman can all work and do things, run codes, for example, code blues for heart attacks and things like that, and they all can work together, and that's invaluable. So the communication piece gets perfected, the skill sets in terms of what they're actually doing with their hands get perfected. I'm so proud of our simulation center. It is a very valuable asset for us.
So how has the perception, what is the perception of the type of service that one would get here at the hospital, because it is a government facility, a naval hospital? Has it traditionally been positive, negative? Has that perception changed over the years?
That's actually a good question, and I'm not one to answer that. I will tell you my perceptions of being here for about a year now. If I were injured in an automobile accident anywhere in this area, I want to come to this facility, because this is the place where we have more physicians, more anesthesiologists, more nurses, more corpsmen who have had really hands-on, no-kidding experience with trauma and very significantly critically ill patients in places like Iraq and Afghanistan very recently. And these men and women are at the very top of their game. And so if I'm injured, I want to come here because I know that's where I'm going to get the very best care. Because as you probably know this, but during periods of conflict, we make some tremendous strides in military medicine.
You have to.
Absolutely, you have to. But in this conflict, that's happened as well. We've made enormous strides in the way we take care of critically injured patients. As you know, 98% of our casualties, if they get to a military hospital overseas with a pulse, they live and they come home and they're reunited with their loved ones. 98%, that's a tremendous statistic.
So the system is probably something that the private sector can look to for guidance in all of this. I mean,
and they already have. Yes, we've shared a lot of our successes with the private sector, but we're the ones that have the skill sets, have the hand skills, have that knowledge, because we've been there and done it so many times. So yes, it is the best place to come for traumatic care here.
Going out, what do you envision as the future for the medical center at this point? I know we still have the conflicts worldwide,
Sure.
and that'll come and go. There'll be times of peace. What do you see the future looking like?
Well, I think the Sim Center is going to be some of our future, because one of my concerns is, as the war winds down, how do I keep my providers, my nurses, my dentists, my corpsmen, how do I keep them at the very top of their skill sets? What can we do to ensure that they don't lose those critically important skills that are degradable? I mean, if you don't use those skills, they don't stay with you for all that long. So the Sim Center, I think, is going to be part of our future. I think the other thing is, from 1830, we've stayed here, we've been relevant, we've provided great care. And so again, I see our future as continuing that wonderful tradition that we've already established. And I'm very, very pleased to be here during this time. It's an exciting time to be here at Portsmouth. And I'm very much looking forward to things that will happen in the future.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. This has been very exciting.
Thank you. Our look at the Naval Medical Center Portsmouth will continue right after this message.
Welcome home, man.
Welcome back to Portsmouth Insights. Due to the events of the last 11 years, the number of U.S. military missions throughout the world has increased dramatically. In response, the Naval Medical Center Portsmouth offers to our men and women in uniform not only the finest medical care, but a host of other very important services. Hi, Chief Petty Officer Young. I'm Rob Lauer.
Good morning, sir.
Thanks for taking time to talk to us.
Certainly.
Okay, so we're on the 7th floor of the hospital, and I understand this has undergone some changes recently.
Yes, it has. 2 years ago, this was opened as the Wounded Warrior Patriot Inn.
Okay, so this is people who have been wounded in action over in Afghanistan, Iraq, other places?
It is, but not fully reserved for that. It's for any service member who is fitting the need.
Okay, so you wanted to show us some of what you have here? I mean, this is a really nice room over here.
Yes, we walk right over here. This is one of our rooms. We have 13 rooms. They're pretty much all set up the same. They're ADA compliant, so that any patient can get through here with whatever apparatus they have. They look like hotel rooms.
They really do. They're very nice ones. So it's quite a change then if they've been in a hospital room or a ward or something for a while to...
One of the main focuses behind this was to truly get out of the hospital setting and get them back into some normalcy and get them back to living on their own.
Yeah.
They do have to be 100% able to medicate themselves, care for themselves, laundry, what you and I's daily life. They have. So
they pretty much said they live here. This is almost like an apartment complex.
It is. We treat it as an apartment. They have a room. They have responsibilities. They have to maintain the room. And yes, we do have some people who've been here an extended time.
How long do people staying here?
We've had people living here from 1 day to 6 months. It
wow.
really depends on the need.
Okay. Now, if they have family, can family come visit them here?
Family can come visit anytime. We have very lenient rules on that. So family is allowed to come here anytime they want. They're just not allowed to spend the night.
Okay. And down the hall, you have facilities like you mentioned, laundry and things like that.
Down the hall, we have low ADA compliant washers and dryers. We also have a kitchenette where they can cook, use a microwave, coffee pot, toaster oven, refrigerator, stuff like that.
As far as other meals go, I mean,
As far as other meals, residents of the Patriot Inn are not charged for food in our galley, which is our dining facility.
Okay.
So they can eat there as well, and then there's food facilities on the second deck.
Okay. As far as, are there facilities here as far as, I don't know, physical therapy, physical training, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. We have physical therapy, occupational therapy, and other services. They actually come up to the room and they teach them how to adapt their therapy from a hospital setting to at home. So they may teach them how to do exercises on a chair, on a bed, on a rolling chair, whatever the need is. We have physicians come up here, they'll check on the patients here and there whenever need be. It's great to have patients who require a lot of need in a very close area. So it's 10 minutes out of the doctor's way instead of, well, you've parked here.
Yeah, I parked here, and having to find your way around. So, okay, how many rooms do you have here?
We have 13 rooms.
Okay, and one person per room?
Yes, there's single occupancy.
Okay, so what has the reaction been to people who have stayed here?
I've had to kick people out.
That popular.
We have great barracks on the space, but it's obviously not the same as this facility. So it is. We have had times, depending on need, to triage which patients are ready to move on to the next step, which is our barracks or their own residency. But it's really based on need.
Okay.
But yes, we've had to ask people to leave.
Would you have any idea how many patients are like in the whole Wounded Warrior program here, or how many people are you dealing with who've been severely?
Well, since this this facility is opened in February 2010, we've had roughly 350 residents pass through in the course of almost 3 years. Currently, I think we have about 40 Navy sailors that are in different recovery stages, and then probably close to 55, 60 Marines who are here as well.
All right. Well, thank you so much for showing us around and taking time to talk to us. Thank you.
Certainly.
I'm joined now by Carol Mitchell, who's the Health Systems Supervisor. Thank you for joining us, Ms. Mitchell.
You're welcome.
So I'm curious, what happens? Someone is wounded in action. They come here, they go through therapy. What types of programs are here at the hospital, basically, to help them transition back into normal life?
Well, you first have to start with the member getting treated and rehabilitated. And so we have the Patriot Inn, so they'll come to the Patriot Inn. Patriot Inn is when they don't require intensive attention on the ward, and so they stay there. And as you may have seen already, it's really nice, really nice place for them to stay. But they get treated all over the hospital, from physical therapy to psychiatry to neurology. All these different specialists are involved in taking care of these members. Once they have stabilized and they're ready to be discharged from the service, then they come through our process. And our process consists of disability counselors to counsel them through the disability system. We have people set aside to actually, it's not to ensure that they have a keen awareness of the process as they go. We have programs for voc rehab. We have the VA here, right here. The VA is here to carry them through the VA side of the process. Unique at this hospital is that we have all of these resources co-located on this floor.
Oh, okay.
So I can refer a member to Safe Harbor. Safe Harbor will get that member and his family, say, to New York for specialized care, or I can get them over to the VA people, and the VA staff will help them get through the VA side of the house. This is something that's new and unique to this facility right now. All the facilities are trying to get on board because it's a best practice for our active duty member. We have Fleet Liaison up here. Fleet Liaison is responsible for working between the member and the commands that they came from when they came from overseas, ensuring that their records and their administrative processes are all figured out. We have a member that's severely injured. Safe Harbor and the Recovery Care Coordinator will assist that member in getting the claims filled out, to get the insurances that they are entitled to. And there are a lot of entitlements, but one section just can't be knowledgeable on all of it.
Right.
So being centrally located means that we can send that member from one section to another and ensure that he gets the best of everything, really.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you for the work that you're doing. I know that the people you serve appreciate it, and the public should too. Thanks for telling us about it today.
You're quite welcome.
Thanks. When we return to Portsmouth Insights, we'll take a look at one of Portsmouth's historic neighborhoods, Swimming Point. Stay tuned.
Morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me.
I think it might be one of the monitors.
Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did. Are you on your way to the mall? I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
Welcome back to Portsmouth Insights. In the shadows of the Naval Medical Center Portsmouth, overlooking the Elizabeth River and the skyline of downtown Norfolk, is one of Portsmouth's oldest and smallest historic neighborhoods, Swimming Point. A small point of land jetting into the Elizabeth River, Swimming Point was once connected to the rest of Portsmouth by a large footbridge. The footbridge is long gone, but with no through traffic, there is a quiet, secluded feeling along its tree-lined streets. The houses here sit close to one another, fostering a close-knit sense of community. Swimming Point is also the site of one of the oldest homes in Portsmouth.
I am Martha Frances Fortson, a resident of Swimming Point, and my husband and I have lived in Swimming Point since 1973.
Hi, my name is Karen Smith, and my husband and I just moved to Swimming Point about 2.5 years ago, and found that we had fumbled our way into one of the most wonderful neighborhoods.
My name is Robert Loomis, and I live in a house, parts of which are believed to be the oldest house in Portsmouth. It was built around 1735 by Colonel Crawford for his land manager. His son inherited the house, and his grandson, Richard Dale, was a Revolutionary War naval hero of some acclaim.
Colonel Crawford's home, it still remains there, and it's just a lovely home that's been in the Reed family for many, many years.
My great-grandfather, J. Davis Reed, bought the house in 1920, and my grandfather, Robert Reed, lived in the house almost his entire life, about 80 years, and my mother grew up in the house, and my family, that is my parents and my two sisters and I, moved back in with my grandparents in 1979. In 2003, my grandfather passed away, and my grandmother, who was in her mid-80s, was living alone in the house. And I had just left a job in San Diego and was trying to decide what to do next. And so my soon-to-be wife and I moved in with my grandmother. So we've lived there now for almost 10 years in this iteration, and now have a 2-year-old daughter who is the 5th generation of our family living there.
Why did my husband and I move to Swimming Point? Well, about 2.5 years ago, we found our way over to this lovely neighborhood, and I said, we can't afford back in here. But luckily, a house came available when we had just sold ours, and we ended up at the corner of Crayford Street and Washington Street, and have had just a wonderful time since. We got to know all of our neighbors because we were constantly, the first 2 years, out in our yard, pulling up bushes and putting down brick patio, and people would walk by and check on the progress.
Everybody it just takes care of their property, and they're so proud of it. My husband and I were commenting the other day. I mean, everything is just very carefully manicured. Everybody just takes such pride because it is so charming. And I have always said, I mean, since my parents moved there in the late 60s, I've always said it was the best kept secret in Tidewater. I mean, it is just nestled there right on the waterfront, and the Naval Hospital in the background, and then Old Town on the other side.
Just before we moved to Swimming Point, we had built a house up on Eastern Shore, which we thought was going to be our retirement heaven. And then we found this place in Swimming Point, and these amazing neighbors. Like, for instance, right across the street from us are some folks who have sponsored several students from Turkmenistan. And they sit out on their brick patio They'd say, come have a glass of wine, come play. They play card games, and what an amazing resource to get to know other folks. Instead of people sitting inside in their air conditioning watching cable TV, a lot of folks in Swimming Point are out.
That's what we like about Swimming Point. We're all a very close group. We enjoy one another. We have neighborhood picnics. We have July 4th parties. Most of us are dog lovers, so the dogs are a part of the neighborhood. And we have very young and we have very old. So that's what's so charming about it.
There's a new community of people there. Some of whom have lived there for 30 or 40 years, and some have lived there for 4 or 5 years, but getting together and kind of convening on the seawall when the weather's nice, and our neighbor has a pier that he lets anyone who wants to walk out and use it.
We have the Swimming Point Civic League, and we quickly got roped into it. Someone showed up with a plate full of brownies. Carrie down the street said, welcome to Swimming Point. You people look like you might have workers you could help feed. And some delicious brownies. She still doesn't tell me her whole recipe. She swears they're Duncan Hines, but they're good. Anyhow, and then promptly roped me in as this social committee, welcoming committee person, because she had a new job. And my husband got roped in as the communications persons.
Of course, Swimming Point has to be different. You know, we are not actually set up like the Old Town Civic League. We are more or less a homeowners type group, but it's very active, and we have a board, and we meet and decide different things and beautification things and that type of thing. When
the property between the neighborhood and the Naval Hospital fence was condemned by NiSource, we formed a nonprofit corporation to lease it from them as a nature conservancy. We
pay for the lawn mowing and the insurance, and we get to go out there and run the soccer balls and the dog.
I think another thing that we probably need to point out is that Swimming Point, I mean, that little neighborhood of about 20-some homes has had 8 first citizens through the years. And through the first citizen of Portsmouth is one of the oldest in the country. And it goes back, there have been around approximately 60 first citizens in Portsmouth, and Swimming Point can claim 8 of them, which I think is pretty outstanding.
That's impressive. People who live in the neighborhood are very nice, but I think part of it is just that kind of special geography of the neighborhood that keeps it contained. And so, you know, if I know living in Tokyo briefly for 3 years, and then in Seattle, where I actually lived in the city, when you don't have that containment, it's harder to develop those relationships with your neighbors, because where does it end? I mean, you know, this block or this apartment, you know, this floor of your apartment or something. But this is small enough that you can get to know everyone.
We thought we were, like I've said, I thought we would move to Eastern Shore, out under the trees and all by ourselves, and we will probably spend most of our retirement in Swimming Point.
Swimming Point is just a neighborhood that will last forever. It'll always be the charming, wonderful legacy that it is.
Well, that's it for our show today. As in previous episodes, we've asked our guests what they would like you to know about Portsmouth. Let's hear what some of them had to say.
I think one of the things that I like best about Portsmouth is that I've never lived anywhere where I've been able to walk to so many fun things.
People don't know what a wonderful little village Portsmouth is. You see the same folks at the farmer's market, and then you see them at the Friday night concert.
We sponsor a number of things through the year. And one of them is the Elizabeth River Run. And then they run down the seawall and through the Naval Hospital along Scotts Creek and back out through Old Town. And they come back and say, we had no idea that this was a wonderful little place.
Well, there you have it. But don't take their word for it. Come to Portsmouth. See what all the talk is about. I'm Rob Lauer. Join me next time for another episode of Portsmouth Insights.